This is Katie Murphy Turner, and thank you for watching this. I am a professional singer. I haven't done any videos on this channel for a very long time, but I was looking at this channel tonight and I realised that some of the videos that I have done have had quite a few views because I have one channel which is more for my business and me as a professional singer, where I have videos of me performing, etc. Although there are one or two on this channel where I've actually got the two channels confused in the past. But this one I thought I would keep for what I want to do from 2024, and that is basically just talk about what it is and the life of being a professional singer and actress. I am from London and I moved to the United States, to Southern California in 2016. I then got divorced because my ex-husband didn't want to live here, but me and my sons did. We moved here full-time in 2018, but we've been living here mostly from 2016. And now in 2024, after living in Southern California for all that time, I'm now going to move to New York. So this is going to be about moving from Southern California or California to New York. And not only is it going to be about that, I'm going to talk about what it really is like to be a professional working singer. I sing musical theatre, I sing opera, I sing with bands, I sing literally everything from opera to ABBA. So I'm going to talk about some of the engagements that I'm doing. I'm going to talk about what my life was like in my 20s and early 30s when I was in the West End and playing lead roles in the West End. So the things I'm going to talk about on this channel, a lot of it will be about the feelings and how it feels to be a professional performer, and that includes the fears, the pressures, the dirty games that go on sometimes in that business, all the arse licking you sometimes have to do, which I never did actually. I only was friendly with people in the business who I really, really honestly liked. The nerves, as I said, the rejection of how you nearly get a show and then you get to the last two and they decide to pick someone who's been starring in EastEnders or someone who's been starring in The Real Housewives of New Jersey to be the lead role rather than someone who's studied to be a singer and actress in that industry properly, because they just want to put bums on seats and get a television celebrity, all those sort of unfair things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So if you're not a performer, I think you still will find it interesting, to tell you the truth, how difficult it is for a woman over the age of 34 in the musical theatre industry especially. It's terribly ageist. For women especially, it's terribly ageist. How they get away with it, I don't know. Though I can sort of see how they do. That sort of thing. Talking about the different parts of America that I've lived in. I'm going to also talk about property, buying property in England, buying property in America, comparing the processes. Is it easier in America? Is it easier in England? I'm going to compare the expense of life living in America versus London. So whenever I go back to London now, which hasn't been since last August, unfortunately, I don't get there very often now because I've been very busy here. I go to Waitrose or Marks and Spencer's, and for American people who are watching this, that's like our Gelson's or our Whole Foods. Yeah, it's the more expensive grocery stores. And I used to always go shopping at Aldi and Lidl when I lived in London, Essex and Hertfordshire. But now when I go to Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's, I'm like, oh, that's cheap. Those raspberries, they're good for... I can't believe how cheap everything is here. So that's giving you some kind of a sign that the cost of food here, well, in Southern California especially, is very expensive. Like when you're paying $7 for a loaf of bread that isn't as good as Tesco's own brand, certainly not as good as Tesco's Finest, which you can get for about, I would say, £3 now. It's been a while. Correct me if I'm wrong, English people. And it's not as good. So that's just a little example. But I'm going to tell you the comparisons, the like for likes. I have to be careful about what I say, obviously, because I am still working in the industry. I don't want to upset anyone. I also don't want to upset anyone that I like, and I don't want to upset anyone that I love. That's very, very important to me, or I have loved in the past. But I am going to be quite honest about things that I say. I do sometimes have controversial views that can upset people. I was actually listening to Joan Crawford's biography on YouTube today, and obviously we all know about the movie Mummy Dearest, but this book she must have written before that was released. It's very interesting to hear her talking about things. She had obviously a very strong woman, very strong views. She didn't actually mention the fact that she hit her daughter with a metal hanger, but she's got some very strong, pedantic ways, and I'm nothing like that, and I would never hit anyone with a metal hanger, especially my children. But I do have strong views about things that some people might get offended by, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but it's just how I am. I have friends of all colours, all sexuality, all sexual preferences, cross-gender, all religions, thin, fat, medium, spotty, whatever. I'm friends with everyone, but I do have my own personal expectations of myself that some people might find offensive, but that's just what I want for me, and I'm not saying that that's what I expect of anyone else. It's just what I like for me. Yes. So I'll just start off by talking a little bit about my history slightly. I am 54. I work very hard to keep my skin looking as good as it can be. I have to look as young as I can, which is sad, but I do. And I still try to retain the weight that I was as a 20-year-old woman, 21-year-old woman. So, and I am still the weight that I was as a 21-year-old woman. And that's hard. That is hard now as a 54-year-old, believe me. This last year and a half, it has got much harder to stay at that weight, or close to that weight. It's difficult, and it does get harder. So I'll talk a little bit about how I'm trying to do that, how I'm managing that. I'm going to talk about how I am always watching the alcohol consumption that I take. But anyway, I was going to talk about myself as a professional singer. I started singing professionally. First time I was paid to sing, I was 10 years old. My mother was a professional singer. She was a crossover artist like myself. Crossover artist is one who sings opera and musical theatre. In my case, I sing everything from opera to ABBA, quite literally, and I'll tell you about that in a little while. So yes, I studied at the Royal College of Music. My mum studied at the Guildhall. We both went from there to musical theatre, into the West End, both of us straight into the West End actually. And whereas my mum, I don't think ever did go and do or work for a professional opera company. Once she got in the West End, she literally went from one show to the other without a break, whereas I was in and out. So I did work for opera companies as well as musical theatre. So I guess my career was different. It was different to my mother's, but she had a wonderful voice, epic voice, in my opinion, like so many talented singers in the chorus of opera companies or chorus of West End shows, chorus of Broadway shows, why are they the ones in the chorus and not playing the lead roles? That's an endless question, because there are so many people in the chorus that have the most amazing voices, that are the most amazing, talented people, yet for one reason or the other, they're not the ones playing the lead roles. That's another topic we'll talk about. So yes, I was first paid to sing when I was 10. That was for a recording. And then, 10, I was in an advert for Bird's Eye Fish Fingers where we sung and danced. Then 11, I did the recording. 12, don't know what I did, but by the time I was 13, I was at full-time performing arts school called Arts Educational, which is where Julie Andrews and Jane Seymour went, amongst other famous English people. I was lucky enough to be cast in Orpheus and the Underworld for the English National Opera, where literally we were like a teenage nymphette kind of ensemble, where in the first act we played Little Bo Peeps, where basically we were in these pink tutus with these yellow ringlety wigs, where we were singing, we were on point, we were having to do ballet on point and singing opera. We had to roller skate as bellboys. We were doing the can-can, like as French nymphette police women things. It was great though. It was a great production, and actually working for them inspired me to want to do opera over musical theatre as a teenager. Then when I was 15, I worked for them again in a strange music opera by a composer called Janacek called Ozud. I was also put up for the role of Flora in Turn of the Screw through English National Opera. I'll tell you about that audition. That was the first time I encountered the unfairness of our business. There was that. And then when I was 16, I decided that I really had enough of being at Arts Education. I thought, how can I get out of school early? So I auditioned for a show. I got myself an agent. I was in a concert in the West End, and an agent came to see me and she started putting me up for shows. So I was 15 when I was cast in a musical called Robert and Elizabeth at the Chichester Festival, and I was 16 by the time I started it. I then won a scholarship to go to a musical theatre place called London Studio Centre. I only went back to college because my mum really wanted me to. I was actually offered to go into a musical from doing Robert and Elizabeth called Charlie Girl. I was offered the role of schoolgirl, but my mum, it was in Liverpool and Manchester in the UK, so she thought I was too young to be on the road at that age, and I guess now being a mother, I can understand why she thought that. So I went back to London Studio Centre, stayed there for 2 years, and then I really decided I wanted to do opera, and I went to the Royal College of Music. I was there for 2 years, left my course early to go on tour with a musical called Kiss Me Kate. And then I went into the West End for a while, and when I was 21, I was understudying the role of Carrie in Carousel, which was a Royal National Theatre Cameron Mackintosh collaboration. At the same time, I got offered the role of Christine on the first ever tour of the world. So the UK was the first place to do a tour of Phantom of the Opera. I was the first ever Christine to be offered that. At the same time, I got offered to take over the role of Carrie in Carousel with a brand new West End opening, both Cameron Mackintosh, really useful group. My agent chose Carousel. I did get to play Christine later when I was 26 on tour, and then in the West End. So that gives you a little bit about me as a professional singer, and this concludes my first video on Chat with Katie. Katie isn't my singing name, but Katie is going to be my name for this channel. So this is video number 1. Hope you enjoyed it.